You know that question that sometimes just sits with you quietly in the back of your mind? It's not about work or family or what you're doing this weekend. It's bigger. A question about what all this is for, what's really true. It kind of hums under the surface of everything. This search for something real, something you can actually feel, not just think about.
Well, this is a story about a young man who was absolutely obsessed with that search. He was brilliant, totally rational, but he just wasn't satisfied with answers he found in books. See, there was this fire inside him, a deep, restless need to experience truth for himself, not just accept what others told him. He had to see it, to touch it. So he went out into the world with a question so direct, so bold, that it completely stunned the most respected spiritual minds of his day. This young man, his name was Narendra, would look these great teachers right in the eye and ask, with everything he had, "Have you seen God?"
I mean, can you imagine the courage that takes to just walk up and ask that? Now imagine going from person to person, getting vague answers, and then one day, someone looks back at you completely calm and just says, "Yes, I have. And you know what? I can show him to you too." That one word, yes, it changes everything. And it's the start of a journey that wouldn't just change him. It would end up awakening an entire nation. So why does this story from so long ago matter to us right now? Well, because Narendranath's quest, it's really our quest, isn't it? We all want to feel like we're living our own truth, not just following a script someone else wrote for us. His story is like a roadmap for that search for authenticity that we all have inside.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's 19th century Calcutta. Narendranath, who the world would later know as Swami Vivekananda, is this young, super smart, kind of skeptical guy. He's involved in this modern spiritual group, the Brahma Samaj. But honestly, he finds it a bit boring. It's all philosophy, all talk. It does absolutely nothing to quench that fire in his soul. This burning need, it just pushes him. He starts his own personal mission, seeking out all the famous Mahatmas, the great spiritual teachers of the time. And he hits every single one of them with that same direct, almost shockingly blunt question. He wasn't looking for a nice philosophical chat. He wanted a demonstration. He wanted to see the proof. And the answers he got back, well, they were pretty disappointing. The great Debendranath Tagore just praised him, saying, "Wow, you seem to be a great yogi," which is a nice compliment, sure, but it's not an answer. And this just made him feel that gap between knowing about something and actually knowing it. It was like people kept handing him guidebooks when all he wanted was to actually see the place. And then, just when he's about to give up, the whole jury takes a sharp turn. And as it so often happens in life, the clue he needed didn't come from a holy man or a sacred text. It came from the most unexpected place, a college classroom, during a lecture about an English poet. So his English professor is talking about a poem by William Wordsworth, and he starts describing this state of consciousness called samadhi. It's a state where your mind becomes so clear, so pure, that you directly experience reality itself. And for Naren, hearing this is like, that's it, that's what I've been looking for. But then the professor says something that just floors him. He says, "You know, this isn't just a poetic idea. There's actually a man, a sage, living in Dakshineshwar, who lives in this state. His name is Sri Ramakrishna." Now just picture these two for a second. They could not be more different. You've got Narendranath, the modern intellectual, the sharp debater, the total skeptic. And then you have Sri Ramakrishna, a simple man, almost like a child, who is just overflowing with this pure divine love. It's literally the meeting of two worlds, the head meeting the heart. When they finally meet, Sri Ramakrishna doesn't try to argue with Narendranath. He doesn't preach at him. He just sees him. He asks Naren to sing a song, and when he does, Ramakrishna is just overcome with emotion. He pulls the young man aside with tears streaming down his face and tells him he's been waiting for him, waiting for the one person who could truly receive his spiritual treasures. He saw the fire. But Naren, oh, he is not convinced that easily. He is a huge doubter. And this part is absolutely crucial to his story. His doubt wasn't a flaw. It was his greatest strength. It's what made his search so pure. He believed you should never, ever follow a teacher blindly. And the amazing thing is, Sri Ramakrishna totally agreed. He didn't ask for faith. He actually encouraged Naren to test him in every way possible. And Naren definitely tested him.
There's this famous story where he hears that Ramakrishna's body is so pure he can't even touch money. So what does he do? He secretly hides a rupee coin under the bedsheet. And the moment Ramakrishna sits down, he leaps up like he's been stung by a scorpion, in actual pain. Naren feels terrible, but Ramakrishna just comforts him and says, "It's okay. You can test me as much as you need to." He met the test with total love, not anger. But the final test, the real proof, wasn't something his mind could figure out. It was something he had to experience. On another visit, Sri Ramakrishna just casually places his foot on Naren's chest. And in that one instant, Naren's whole world just dissolves. The walls, the room, even his own body seem to vanish into this huge, overwhelming void. He gets terrified and yells, "What are you doing to me? I have my parents at home." Ramakrishna just smiles, touches him again, and everything snaps back to normal. That was it. He'd been given a glimpse. And boy, was this new connection about to be tested. Soon after, Narendranath's father passed away suddenly, and his family went from being wealthy to having absolutely nothing. They were literally starving. Naren would have to lie to his own mother, telling her he'd already eaten, just so she and the others could have what little food was left. It was an incredibly hard time, but through it all, his faith in his master never broke. This was his period of testing, and he showed his true strength. So you see, all of this, the deep spiritual experiences, the intense hardship, it wasn't just a series of random events. It was like a blacksmith's fire. It was forging his soul. Narendranath came to his guru as this brilliant but kind of scattered young man. He had a sharp intellect, yeah, but also a hot temper and a restless heart. And under Ramakrishna's guidance, all that raw energy was being focused and transformed.
The way it's described is really beautiful. It's like Ramakrishna was a kind of spiritual doctor. He wasn't adding anything new to Naren. He was just helping to remove the things, the pride, the anger, the doubt, that were covering up the brilliant soul that was already there. His anger was turning into unstoppable passion. His intellect was finally satisfied by direct experience. And his heart was learning how to love everyone.
The very last shred of doubt finally melted away on his guru's deathbed. Sri Ramakrishna was in immense pain from throat cancer. And for a second, Naren thought to himself, if he's really divine, how can he be suffering like a normal person? It was like Ramakrishna heard the thought. He looked right at Naren and said, "He who was Rama, he who was Krishna, is in this body as Ramakrishna." It wasn't a boast. It was a final gift, the last piece of the puzzle falling into place. And in those final moments, Ramakrishna did one last thing. He called Naren to his side, and he passed all of his spiritual power into him, saying, "Today I've given you my all and become a beggar." He put Naren in charge of all the other young disciples. And in that moment, the transformation was complete. The restless seeker had become the calm shepherd. The great doubter had become the keeper of the sacred flame. So, after his master passed away, Narendranath set out as a wandering monk, traveling all across India. And what he saw just broke his heart. He saw a country with this incredible spiritual history that was just crushed by poverty and ignorance. And this is where you see the big inner shift. His personal search for God had exploded into a mission to serve all of humanity. He had a huge realization. You can't preach religion to people with empty stomachs. This lit a completely new fire in him. He began to share a powerful, practical message. It was a wake-up call. "Be fearless," he would roar. "Have faith in yourselves before you have faith in God." He told people they needed muscles of iron and nerves of steel, because finding the truth takes strength. This wasn't a soft, quiet message. It was a call to action. And that mission took him from the dusty roads of India all the way to Chicago for the 1893 Parliament of World Religions. He was a complete unknown, with no money. And when it was his turn to speak, this man we now see as a spiritual lion, he was absolutely terrified. The crowd was huge. He was so scared, he actually let his turn pass twice, his heart just pounding in his chest. Finally, he knew it was now or never. He walked to the podium, took a deep breath, and instead of the formal "ladies and gentlemen" that everyone else was using, he started with 5 simple words from his heart: "Sisters and brothers of America." And the effect was electric. The entire audience, 7,000 people, jumped to their feet and gave him a standing ovation that went on for more than 2 minutes. He hadn't given a speech yet. He had just made a connection. And in that speech, he told a very simple story that said everything he needed to say. The story of the frog in the well. A frog from the great ocean comes to visit a frog who has lived his whole life in a tiny well. The well frog asks, "So, how big is this ocean of yours? Is it as big as my well?" And his point was so clear. We're all a bit like that frog in the well. We think our little world, our religion, our way of seeing things is the only way, and we have no idea about the vast, amazing ocean of truth that connects us all. So, from one young man's fiery question to a message of global unity, his journey shows us the incredible power of a truly sincere search. His whole life was about learning to see beyond the walls of his own well, and it kind of leaves us with a question for ourselves, doesn't it? Are we brave enough to look up from our own little wells and try to imagine the ocean?